I'm Dan, and this is 10,000 Hours of Indie, a podcast exploring new music and delving deeper into what goes on in the background of the independent music industry. I'm a musician and passionate music lover, and I wanted to delve deeper into new music in the independent scene around the world. I also saw this as a chance to help artists connect and share their stories, so if there's someone you hear and you want to find out more about, every podcast has links in the show description. Get involved, help this community grow, follow on the 10,000 Hours of Indie socials, you can find all the links in the show description. And also feel free to email me about anything music related, 10,000indie@gmail.com. I'm open to any ideas and love listening to your promos. Bingo Crowd are a Norwegian trio formed in the late 90s. Originally a hard and heavy trio under the moniker Bitch Cassidy, they evolved into a synth-infused trio after guitarist Svein discovered electronic music and their music took a darker synth-driven sound. The trio is made up of Andreas Elvnes, Svein Segdman and Eivind Brunstad, and via another name change to BC, eventually landed at Bingo Crowd for this album. Taking 17 years to release their second album, this is a band who certainly like to take their time to make music. I'm chatting with vocalist Andreas Elvnes about their new album Manna, which came out back in April, followed by a physical release in May. Andreas, welcome to the 10,000 Hours of Indie podcast.
Thank you, and thank you for having me.
So, it took 17 years for the latest album. I did the maths, and that's about 19 months per track. Was it simply a case of it being the difficult second album?
We really don't know how to explain why it took so long, but for sure it's a long time. And we used 8 years on the first album, and we thought that was a long time, and now it's over double. So no excuses apart from maybe last couple of years, the pandemic and so on. But we might have gotten there in 15, but still, yes, of course, it's a long time.
Do you all have other musical projects going on as well?
Yeah. Not in the same genre, but I have a couple of other bands which are a bit more efficient in terms of doing stuff and releasing.
So I read somewhere that the band found that 80s synth pop sound without ever really having heard the original sort of 80s sound. Is that the case?
It's sort of the case. I noticed you called Svein the guitarist. Eivind is the guitarist, but Svein is the synth guy. He was listening to a lot of, ambient, so been listening to synth music. The first time we were invited to a synth festival, and a guy talked about Gary Newman. We didn't know who that was, so that's true. Yeah, Brian Eno and that sort of stuff he's been listening more to.
I hear a lot of Depeche Mode in the latest album.
Okay, yeah, we definitely know who that is, but I don't think we really have an history for listening to it. At least not as a crowd. We don't have any tradition for sitting down and listen to Depeche Mode. But of course, it's I respect the band, but I don't really hear our sound or their sound in ours. But thank you.
I would like to point out that's the happier end after Vince Clarke left, because the early Depeche Mode stuff, I found the keyboards very cheesy. So better end of Depeche Mode for me.
I know. But, yes, Vince Clarke is more. He went on to Erasure or something.
Yes, he went via Yazoo to Erasure.
Yazoo, yes.
Yeah. So the new album was released in April. How's it been received so far?
We had a very good critique in our local newspaper, and then finally in the capitals, like the main newspaper for music in Norway. But that was after we had a show in Oslo, and a journalist was attending that show. And then we got 3 weeks after our release, I guess it came into a good review there also. It's nothing much abroad.
Well, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you.
We've got quite a few listeners in the US for this podcast, so hopefully this will get you over there a little bit.
Yeah, thank you. And there was some contact with some Berkeley radio, but I think we need to wait until the fall and see how that goes when they start their new semester, I guess.
Yeah, true. Of course, all the students are on holiday. That's true. Yes. Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about the album, its themes, and sort of what you were writing about when you were writing the lyrics for this album.
We call it manners. It's kind of several ways to interpret the title, but of course, when you wait so long and people say, "Show me some manners," there they are. But also, it's sort of an cry to humanity that it's time for some manners, I guess. And also, the cover is a picture of the cutlery from my great grandfather's wedding in 1920. So it's also about what are we doing these days, maybe. But also, it's not like a concrete context or concept. It's more like a start off, but also, if you find any logic that reminds you of dream logics, it's more about that too. I guess it's hard to explain, but that's kind of a goal when we finish a song and it makes sense in a dream, then it makes sense in the song.
So the last track, Pertamento Mogen, seems to have a nod just after a minute to what the band probably sounded like originally. There's that sort of 30 seconds of proper heaviness to it.
We also like to listen to a Norwegian band called Dark Throne, which has this sort of a dogma. Whenever there's a catchy theme, it does never repeat. So it would just let it a little nod to sort of, I don't know, heroes or whatever. But, well, we need to hire a proper drummer for that, I don't know, 20 seconds or something. Thomas Gjermyr is a jazz hand, also good at... he played in a Norwegian band it's still called Motorpsycho, but for a period of time he lived in Trondheim and played there. And good drummer.
I actually had a question about him later, but now that you've mentioned him, I looked him up and I found a fascinating video of him playing an 11+ minute solo with just cymbals, which was part of his album that he released.
Yes, and I also attended a couple of concerts where he does that, and it's also kind of a dreamy music in a different way. Yeah, meditative for sure, and transcendental if you get into it.
Yeah. The album was mixed and co-produced by legendary engineer and producer Alan Moulder. How did that come about?
It came about via our friend and record guy Geir, who has the label where we release our music, Crispin Glover Records, and he has been sending emails in the night when everybody else is sleeping, and finally he got in touch with him, I guess 6 or 7 years ago. So it was a long process after that also. I think the first mix was the song Volup, which is, I think, the second track. We've got that first mix in February 2000. So then we knew we need to work with this guy, and luckily he said yes to finishing the album.
So what has he brought to your sound?
Well, for instance, the chorus on that song, we were focusing on some high-pitched pads, whereas he was turning the focus around to the bass and making it really like fat and crisp at the same time. And we knew, well, this is something new. And also, in the end, he was panning sort of a little piano ostinat, which sounds like it's just swinging around in your head in a very peculiar fashion. And it does a lot. And he's a genius, of course.
You've already mentioned one of the guests. You've also got guest vocalist Kirsty Huk on 3 of the tracks. For people listening to this, she's probably best known as the former vocalist of The Third and The Mortal. Yeah. Is she a friend of yours, or
she is a friend of mine? It was actually, I don't remember the name of the album. I think it was Memoirs, released in 2002, which I'm also a guest on that Third and Mortal album. We knew each other from the music conservatoire in Trondheim, where she was on the jazz department, but we'd sort of met in the cantina, but also we traveled to Mexico with that band, and then me and her stayed for some longer time and then got to be close friends. And she's also a guest on the album that came out in 2008 under the name BC. We haven't been able to connect them on the platforms, but it's called Sinecure, and she's guesting on several tracks there also. And she's a good friend and an amazing singer.
I was going to ask about that, actually. So the other album is available on streaming services, but not under this name.
No, it's under BC. We were, as you mentioned, called Bitch Cassidy earlier, and then we were about to release the last album, and we found out someone else has that name, of course, but it's not very clever. If you want to be discovered and to call yourself BC, it's impossible to find, of course. So that's also a reason to name. After we covered a song by the punk poet Patrick Fitzgerald in 2009, I think. And another band of mine contributed to that tribute album with another song of him called Bingo Crowd. So it's actually a song of Patrick Fitzgerald, and it's much easier to find on those platforms.
I was desperately searching for it.
Eventually, we might one might be able to find a former album on the same place.
This is the problem with streaming services and things. And I assume probably when you released your first album, the streaming services weren't available. It was a proper just physical release back then.
It was a physical release, and also there were some underground forums where you shared the music, and until somebody found out and said, well, this has copyright and you can't do that and whatever. And then I don't know when Spotify came about, but of course, there's also questionable place to share your music in many ways. So we're hoping to find a better solution for that, as many other musicians. But now we're there, and also the other album is there, and on the Bandcamp and whatever.
Yeah,
Tidal,
I was going to say your Bandcamp's a good place to find it, and probably Tidal and Deezer and all of the others you're on as well.
Yeah, I think so.
You mentioned the picture of your great-grandfather's silverware on the album cover. Why?
It makes sense in a fever dream logical way also. And it's also, I think, it suits the title Manners also. Of course, in many ways, people didn't have better manners back then, but it's kind of a picture of a time when things were a bit more not about to fall apart in the same way as it feels these days.
Although only 2 years after the First World War, so it wasn't that much greater then.
Yeah, crazy things have happened before.
Do you think the term that has been coined for your band several times, depressive disco, is a fair description of your sound?
That's the kind of play with words I think we've made up ourselves. But as you say, when we are on Spotify and people search for new music, I don't think many people tap those letters in for to find it. So we I guess we need to find a better way to describe the music. I heard someone say Tinder sticks with synth. That's not too bad. I like Tinder sticks, and someone's, of course, people say all those sub labels under dark wave or whatever, and cold wave. I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't call it dark wave because I wouldn't say you're bleak. I actually find it quite uplifting. I don't think it's depressing or dark. I find it quite. It's got that sort of dark nuance to it, but I wouldn't say the music is depressing or dark, really.
No.
Personally. I'm terrible at genres.
We as well. But, I guess it's definitely kind of melancholic. I was about to say about labeling the music. We were playing at this festival called Iceland Airwaves back in 2009. And of course, they have this description of every band in their festival newspaper. And we didn't send anything in. We just wanted to see what they wrote. And they ended up with reading about ourselves called, and the music was New Goth with the German U.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. I don't think New Goth sounds to me like everybody's wearing latex, but of course, if you want to have a mohawk and latex coat, that's fine with me. But it's not only for that guy.
Yeah, you must have had a very different crowd that evening.
Yeah. It was mostly people from the Netherlands, actually, for some reason, at that concert.
So you've worked your way through a few band names. You explained why BC probably wasn't the best.
The band who was also covering Patrick Fitzgerald on that tribute album. It was also actually, I was in with three bands, Third and Mortal, and BC at the time, and the third band was The School, which is even more terrible as in terms of searching for it. So I don't have a history of finding names that are easily found. But Bingo Crowd, I don't think any other bands can call themselves that.
No, well, I accidentally originally sent you the invite for this as Bingo Club, because when I was,
Okay.
what I like to do is I search through AI to see what AI knows about each band.
Okay. Yeah.
I said the name wrong into AI, and it said, well, there's actually an American band called Bingo Club, and there's a Norwegian band called Bingo Crowd. Which one are you referring to? And I accidentally typed Bingo Club on everything for the next day or two.
Okay, yeah.
I have to check them out now.
I can tell you one a little story about. You asked about how the titles or the songs came about. In one song, which is probably the oldest lyrics on the album, I'm saying the words "When science comes alive," and then we found out when the list AI came about, we asked them to, or them, or it, or whatever, to come up with a title, and they landed on "Mapmaker's Dream." So that's actually a title from
AI-generated title, huh?
Yeah. Because
that might not go down well.
yeah, of course. But we're singing, or I am singing "When Science Comes Alive," so we thought it was suitable for that track. And also, we come from a little place where there's still some mapping to do.
Well, I can guarantee for anyone listening to this is definitely not an AI interview.
No, perfect.
I know you've only just released this album, but what's next for Bingo Crowd? Are you hoping to do some gigs alongside this album release, or are you already working on more material, or where are you at as a band?
We have already started last summer with new material, and we're definitely not using 17 years for the next release. But I think we want to also try to make even more people make a remix of some of our songs. You know, Andrew Fern made one remix of Voulu.
Yes, I was listening to that earlier. It's great.
Yeah, and I think that's really one way to go, but of course not in terms of making new music. And also, if we are able to get in touch with more people like him, and also some of the older like heroes from the Norwegian tradition of electronic music, is one guy called Lasse Marhaug. He has made a remix on. We have a cover of Talk Talk coming up as the next release, and there are different people who have made their remix of that one. I don't know the date, but I guess in the fall. So that's the next thing. And Geir, who is releasing this, has some kind of plan for Germany and England in late fall, I think. But it's very loose ends there.
Okay. How do you work live? Because obviously you've got lots of layers in your music. How do you strip it back for a live show?
Obviously, there's a lot of bounced tracks, and our synth guy is playing some things that are in addition to what you hear on the records, and the guitar is live, and I am singing live, and that's it. Unless we have also a last show, Shishti was joining us on some songs more than what she's singing in the album. Shishti is, as I said, a good friend, and she might be joining us if she can. And
okay, so I've got a new question, which I asked for the first time in the last interview I did, which is what music are you listening to at the moment that the listeners of this podcast may not be aware of and should take some time to check out?
I like the guy who calls himself Amen Junes. It's a kind of a mix between, the old Stone Roses, Happy Mondays times in Manchester, but also it's more modern electronic sounding pop from, with good lyrics. And he has actually one collaboration with Sleaford Mods, I think. He's released a couple of albums. I like that. And also, I would have to say, give Baron Womb a listen. It's a duo from our hometown, Trondheim, which are, I think they're going on a Finnish tour now. It's a great noisy rock. I don't know what their genre is called either, but hard hitting and very fun and really great.
Okay. If
Baron
they're coming
Wood.
over to Finland, I'll definitely have to have a listen to see if I can catch them.
They're both singers, and there's a guitar with a I guess octavo pedal and a lot of other effects, and drummer, and they're both singing. So Timo, the Finnish guy, they're definitely touring there every other year at least. I don't know. Baron Wood, great band.
Okay. Thank you for the recommendations. So, for anyone wishing to find out more about the band, you're on Instagram. Where else can people find you?
I think we not very active, but there's a page on Facebook. Other than that, I don't really. We're too old to try TikTok, I guess, and I don't understand much of it. We're planning to have some music on the Facebook, but I don't think we have done that. But it's Instagram, and then of course the different platforms which you mentioned.
Well, Bingo Crowd's music can be found on Bandcamp and all the streaming services I know about. Thanks for joining us. And
Thank you so much.
Hopefully I won't have to wait until I'm 64 to hear the third album.
Yes, I hope so.